schools do you think that the Portland Public School District is planning to close this year? Anyone have any ideas? Throw some figures out there. Brian? 8, 4, 5.
16.
How about 11? 11 is the lucky number for this year. Focusing on schoolwork is hard enough, but when you hear your school's going to close and you have to start worrying about, where you're going to transfer to next year, what are you going to do, it might make things a little bit harder for you. I'm going to be going over the current health of our Portland public schools, including the situation with the schools, what's going on right now, who and how they decide what schools should be closed or reformed, and patterns and problems in the schools that they're closing. Since about 2002, the Portland Public Schools, or PPS as it's known widely in Portland, has been in major overhaul mode, due mostly to performance and underfunding issues. Revisions to school standards and requirements have been going on every year. Part of it is from the No Child Left Behind Act, and part of it's just on Oregon's own will, trying to carry on with the SIM and CAM testing. I don't know if you guys all know what that is, but if you go to school in Oregon, you have to pass a certificate of initial mastery to graduate from high school and state testing. 6 schools last year were closed down. Applegate, Edwards, Kenton, Richmond, Smith, and Whitaker elementary and middle schools were closed. 850 students had to be relocated and dispersed to different schools in different areas. And what that looks like here, that's what the Portland Public School District looks like. And I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see, but all these little circled areas, those are the 11 schools that they're planning to close this year. And if you look at some of them, all the triangles are elementary schools. Some of them, there's not a school, almost double the length away of where kids are going now. So, I mean, if you think about a bus ride that takes half hour to go to school, think about riding a bus an hour to go to school.
Can you tell us how many are elementary schools? Yeah, you can't see it on this side.
The current ones on the list for this year, I didn't write it down. There's Lineker, Holyrood, Burst, Stinton, Astor, Sleaston, Reese, Woodcrest, and a couple others, I think. Can't remember all the names, sorry. Currently, there's still 85 regular Portland public schools, operating today. If those 11 close, that's going to bring it down to 74. And again, it's been going down every year since 2002, pretty much. The most recent trend, the last 2 years, the public Portland schools have been considering changing a lot of the elementary schools into kindergarten through 8th grade schools. And this is being widely pushed by Portland Public School District. If you go onto their website, you'll see almost every other news thread is about it because they're pushing really hard. But a lot of the faculty of the actual school and PTAs, parents, they don't like the idea because think about 8th grader. How old was the 8th grader? 13, 14 years old. With the kindergarten, that's like the size of their probably kneecap. Gonna be running them over in the halls. It's pretty uncomfortable. Kindergarten through 8th grade, for some reason, is outweighing conversions of the old buildings that they are closing, which I've been researching, but I can't really find out why. And also more popular than just new construction, because a lot of the reason for the kindergarten through 8th grade is there's a lack of middle schools in Portland right now, and so they're just trying to shove all the middle school kids into the elementary schools. So who is behind these changes? It's Vicki L. Phillips, which is the superintendent of public Portland schools currently, and committees put together by Portland Public Schools. One such committee I looked up consisted of 25 committee members, Some of them faculty from schools, and some of them just parents. Basically, you just have to apply to be on the committee, and they go through, pick some faculty, pick some community members. 6 Portland Public School directors, directors of finance, of transportation, that kind of thing, and the superintendent, and 5 consultants, outside people to look at, the situation of funding and transportation, growth for, people moving in, and also enrollment. The main purpose stated by most of these task forces is to utilize schools in a way that best meets the need of our children. You can decide for yourself if having a whole bunch of kindergarten through 8th grade schools is the best thing for our children. Feedback from local communities is also considered, but not. The community, they can protest and say we don't want this, but in the end, it's the superintendent, the Portland Public School District that has, the say of what's going to happen to the schools. There are many factors that the task forces of what the committees are called by the Portland Public School consider when they're looking at schools to close or restructure. And sorry, it's kind of small, but some of the main ones out of the list here is there's populations. So lately, over the last 10 years, population has actually declined student-wise anyway in Portland. It's gone down about 10,000 students overall. There's school capacity, so we look at the school, how big it is, how useful it is for the area. School age, there's a lot of schools in Portland that need renovation, and that's really expensive. So instead of renovating, sometimes it's just cheaper to shut them down and sell the properties. Also, testing scores, because of No Child Left Behind. There's a lot of schools funded by the federal government, and if they're not meeting their testing requirements, their funding gets cut, and it's harder to keep the schools open. And also state testing scores are considered for the SIM, Certificate of National Mastery, and things like that. Some of the criteria used to consider school closures are pretty biased. Like I said, you have to pass those state testings and the No Child Left Behind test. Before No Child Left Behind, all those tests, they didn't account the non-English speaking students that, because it's not fair, because they only have English, Spanish, and Russian in Portland schools. So if you speak anything else, you have to take the test. You can't read anything, you might get 0, but they'll still count it into your school score, which lowers the average of all schools. And it mostly affects Portland because Portland has the highest diversity in all of Oregon. How are these changes affecting surrounding schools today? There's a recurring theme in the schools being closed. All of them are either kind of older schools that need to be renovated, or schools that aren't meeting those performance goals, because you get a 2-year warning from No Child Left Behind to improve. You have to improve by a margin of about 5%, which they're starting to get more lean on because they've raised the bar every year by another couple percent for children to pass. So like, let's say it's 40% of your students have to pass this year. No Child Left Behind will raise it to 45 next year. Need for middle schools is apparent by all the kindergarten through 8th grade conversions. It's one of the things that was